Well, Sarah Franklin, I'm glad to finally be speaking with you face to face. I followed you for quite a while now, ever since I entered the carnivore space and the journey to said diet and to where I am now. And you've been one of the coaches that I've seen is most consistent so far with your message, which I highly appreciate. And so I wanted to have you on. I think it's important to have coaches on that really know what they're talking about and are well versed in the message, have been speaking about it for a long time, have been coaching clients for a while too, so they've had enough experience, with the clients dealing with certain issues and all that. And I wanted to bring you on to talk about this recent um, controversy surrounding the reintroduction of carbohydrates into people's diets in a way that is due to the belief that carnivore will cause metabolic dysfunction, will cause really poor thyroid issues and weight stalling and weight gain. So, I suppose that how we should start first is introduce yourself. What brought you to carnivore? How long have you been carnivore? How long have you been coaching clients, etc.? What's your story?
Awesome. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here. I love, what you do and how you take down people that are not exactly correct on the internet. So I think it's great. And we need to have people checked on what they say. So
Mhm.
I'm Sarah Franklin, and I've been a carnivore for almost 7 years. I think I was keto about a year before that. So it's been a long time
Mm.
that I've been eating this way. And I actually came to it because first I thought, I needed to lose some body fat. That was kind of where I started with when I did keto, but I had other things going on. And the funny thing is, I actually worked in pharmaceutical sales. So I was in working for Big Pharma. I was trained in diabetes medications and diabetes management and lifestyle and cardiac, and everything that I taught all of these people was wrong. And I was in a place where I'm like, well, why am I overweight? I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. And why am I having hair loss? And why am I not, having energy and have PCOS and have high blood pressure? Like, I remember going to the doctor and like, you have high blood pressure. I'm like, I, how? Like, they checked all of these things and it made no sense to me. So I started in a January, like saw, Sean Baker, and I remember thinking like, oh my God, no vegetables, like what the heck? And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna try it. And I was shocked. I mean, within weeks, within days I felt better, but within weeks it was like just transformational.
Hmm.
My hair lost up, my cycle got better. I had melasma, which was like darkening skin tissue on darkening on my face. I
Yep.
had PCOS. I mean, I had so many things going on that I didn't realize were metabolically related. And that's the lie that we're sold. And that's what drives me crazy is I was taught that, first of all. It was like, you need to just eat less and move more. And you need to, get a pill when this goes wrong. You need to see the doctor when this is the problem. And there's so many things like, I think doctors are great and there's some really good ones out there, but it's more of an emergency medicine. Like that's what medicine should be. We should be able to not need all of these things if we can live our life with the big principles, like sleep and food and, movement, like
Hmm.
sunshine. You do those like four big
Yeah.
things, you're going to be like
Yeah.
a world of difference than everybody else. So, um, and carnivore just changed so much that once I knew that I couldn't do my job anymore. Like I couldn't sell medication and I couldn't
Uh-huh.
sell metabolic dysfunction and teaching, about diabetes medications where I knew that you didn't need them and people could get off them. I couldn't then even sell there was a injectable cholesterol lowering medication, and I had ethical dilemmas. I really did. I'm like, all right, I got to do something else. I went back to school for holistic nutrition. Um, and yeah, I started building that on the side for a little bit. And then I quit my job and moved to Costa Rica to pursue a healthier, different, and better life, and have been working with clients. I think it's been 4 years I've been working with clients, but full time, it's been really more 2 years of full time carnivore clients. So yeah, I'm very heavily personally invested in all of this. It changed my life.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and I presume that your clients have had a good time on carnivore as well. I mean, how many of you how many lives have you transformed with this way of eating for people, do you think?
Um, I mean, definitely hundreds. I've had a lot of because I've done different variable, I have a lot of one-on-ones of people that are struggling with things because as much as I think carnivore is very easily done with just eat meat can work for a lot of
Right.
people. Like a lot of people can get 90% of the way there and see dramatic improvements. But women often have other hormonal things that it is, a little bit more tricky and things can slow down and, can have some problems. Or people that really have very specific goals, or once they get within a certain weight, and most people come to me, they want fat loss, but there's usually a bunch of other stuff. They have hypothyroid. They have histamine intolerance, which if a lot of people are very food sensitive.
Yep.
So all of these things, those are the extra reasons I feel like people come to me. But I also have had, just general like sales of a ebook or ideas to help people get started on the basic principles of carnivore because yes, it's eat a lot of meat, but it's you need more salt. You need more drink
Right.
different than when you were hangry on, a standard American diet. So, just trying to get everybody on the same page of, what they really need in addition to carnivore to just be optimal.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
So I would
and
say
I
100. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Now, I bring this up as well. I think a lot of people they if they develop any symptoms on while on a carnivore diet, they may very well believe that that means the diet doesn't work, and therefore they have to change the entire diet. And what I recognize,
Right.
I think what's really important to emphasize is that I think I gave a pretty good analogy that I came up with. I was talking to Dave Mack recently about this, and I said to him, I said, "Look, that logic is very. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is the fault of carnivore if you have a problem." And the thing that I gave, the example that I gave was, imagine that you perform like a study. You're a scientist in human nutrition science, and you perform a study on a
Mhm.
large group of people, and you see that over the course of a few years, that people are reporting to be eating a carnivore diet. 80% of them develop the condition that is so called at the moment oxalate dumping. They were just actually exuding oxalate crystals from like their eyelids, their skin, and their toes, and all that. You could,
Yeah.
as a scientist, say, like, the conclusion can be written, and you see this in human nutrition science all the time. It's one of the very many reasons why it's so flawed. The scientists can say, well, carnivore causes
Right.
oxalate dumping, don't do it. And it's like, well,
Right.
hold on a
Yeah.
minute.
Except your body is actually allowed. Yeah. I love it.
Exactly. So yeah, so you could have that happen. And the same thing, I mean, on a micro scale, on a microcosmic scale, you'd have someone deal with a problem that results as they're on carnivore. But who's to say that that wasn't because of past behaviors that you engaged in for decades in some cases?
Yeah.
And who's to say that even if it's a result of your carnivore diet, who's to say that that's because carnivore as a whole, as a broad sort of spectrum, is the problem? I think that I was just talking to someone
Right.
else about this. Like, that's, you can't say that it's the entire broad spectrum of carnivore, because who's this? What do you mean by carnivore? A diet that is made up of milk and beef jerky is carnivore. But obviously
Yes.
you'd be developing
I
problems
know.
on that
I always
because
say like,
yeah,
yeah, it's not a charcuterie diet. Like, I'm sorry. I know it tastes good, but it's not. That's not the best fuel. Like, is it still animal products? Yeah. Is it optimal? No. So, yes, there
yes,
are so many versions now that it is great that it's gained popularity. Like, I love that. Like, when I started, there was like so much less information.
yeah,
People had never heard of it. So, my family is like, what are you doing? I mean, it was really weird 7 years ago to eat only meat. And
yep,
luckily now it is grown in popularity, but so do the trends and the things that then, oh, but you need to try this, you need to try this. And when people start hearing that and they listen to every podcast and everything out there, then they start questioning what they're doing and they could be changing things that are working, or some things take time. We didn't get here overnight. Like we had years, like you said, of what we were doing that was not
yep,
good. That, and to be fair, carbs are probably what got you to carnivore in the first place. Like excessive amount of carbohydrates is why
Hmm.
you were a mess and why you had so much inflammation and body fat and brain fog and, all those other things. So yeah,
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's a great analogy. That's good.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
good.
well, I mean, and this gets to the crux of our conversation. I think this is a good time to start. I wanted to ask you. So you've seen some people develop. I mean, every coach, if they've been coaching enough clients, in I mean, this goes for any diet too. You can see your clients develop some problems along the way, and a responsible coach, they follow the Hippocratic oath, and they say, okay, well, let's not abandon the diet fully, but let's also listen to what you have to say. Let's not
Yeah.
immediately say that it's your fault, but point the fingers. Let's actually work with you on this. And so I wanted to ask you, given the current, the current landscape right now of long-term carnivores, some of which were carnivores for I've seen up to 20 years, starting to change their diet in the last 2 years at least, into eating not just a few grams of carbohydrates, but hundreds, and saying that hundreds of grams a day, and saying that you should too, and that carnivore will cause metabolic dysfunction. I want to ask you first, to start this off, what in your perspective, from your perspective, with the clients that you've taken on, are the biggest drivers for people reintroducing carbohydrates back into their diets? What problems do you see that would lead that have led people to believe that they should be doing that, and have perhaps asked you if that's something that they should do?
Yeah. So the biggest group of people that I find feel that they, or at least they want to try it, it's usually an outside influence. It's usually they saw somebody else do it. It's not
Hmm.
necessarily that there was something wrong. They're just, I saw this guy who surfs all day and eats all this fruit and does this, and maybe I could do that. Or I think it's just, is the grass greener on the other side? Like, I was carnivore for so long. Can I do this now too
Yep.
and be okay? And I don't think that, I think that is like the biggest reason people start questioning, at least with my clients. But yeah, I mean, people want, if you could eat ice cream all day and still feel amazing and look good, like people would do that. It's just, what is it doing inside your body? It's probably not helping you. And we know
Right.
it's not, and we know what it is doing. So you may feel really good when you eat those carbs and be like, wow, I feel good. You're like, yeah, you know what? Alcohol makes you feel good. I'm pretty sure some hardcore drugs make you feel good, but like, what
Right.
is good? Good is the feeling, or good as it is actually good for you. Those are two
Right.
different things. And the fact that, some of these people are saying, oh, it raises your dopamine levels or things like that. Well, yeah, I mean, that's not the goal
Better
here.
be careful with that one.
Yeah, right. Like, so do a lot of these drugs. Like you said, who says you need to have them sky high? And that's going to make you want more and want more. And yeah,
Right.
but I would say the majority of people, the people that struggle the most, I guess I would say, with carnivore, the two camps I see the most in my practice are people that either can't lose excess body fat, that are carnivore, but like stuck. And then they are like, do I need carbs? Do I need this? Do I need that? So they're questioning, is it the diet? Or the people that
Right.
are super, super active and they're like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. Or like, do I need carbs? So those are, I feel like, the two biggest cohorts that I'll see ask me and question about carbs. And then we will make arrangements around that, like looking at their individual factors of what they need, and things you can do if instead of carbs, and if you want to try, because if you're not feeling optimal, I've had a few clients that, like I said, are super active that don't feel optimal because they can't eat enough food, or carnivore is different. Like, you're not as hungry. Your hunger,
Yep.
like, if I just start going in the morning, I could go all day and not eat. Doesn't mean I should do that all day, every day, but it's really easy to ignore your hunger. And when you exercise, it mutes hunger. And there's a lot of things that when we do, and our nervous system is like, well, we're good. We don't need food. We got fuel. This is fine. And that over time can lead to under eating. So that
Yep.
is another, side of it, a lot of with people who are very active, or, just overeat. Even people that can't lose body fat, sometimes they're under eating as well. Sometimes they are overeating. So, I mean, it really is going to depend
Right.
on client, but it is difficult to overdo protein on carnivore, but it is because it's very satiating. But if some people,
Yep.
are just not able to eat that much meat, or they started and they were having like, oh, I'm going to just do OMAD every day because that's what they said I should do. Well, now you're eating one meal a day and you can't have that much protein in a sitting. Like, you probably feel good and you probably don't feel hungry, but your body probably needs
Yep. Yeah, I'm glad. Let's take that apart piece by piece, because the first thing that you said, I feel so vindicated right now because of what you just said, which is
more.
so many people that have come to you asking, oh, well, maybe I should have some carbs. What do you think about this? Because I saw someone else do it. They're
Yes.
almost none of them are actually having problems of their own. You see,
No.
they're not. They said, well, maybe I can do that because I've seen other people do it. And this is one of the reasons why I viewed this time as so urgent, because if you have people that have been going carnivore for, like, in some cases, as I said, decades, or at least over a decade in some cases, saying that they're introducing carbohydrates back in. You should too. Carnivore is going to probably cause these issues for you. I developed this problem and it was going on for a few months or maybe a year. And carbs, I saw that, maybe I could be having these problems because I'm not having carbs, because if you don't do it, you can cause this and that and the other thing.
Yeah.
Then you will also develop these problems. So you better start doing it now, even if you don't have problems at all. And so that's going to cause a bunch of people to, when they don't have any problems whatsoever, they're going to go, oh, well, I better not wait until I do have problems. And it's really easy
Right.
for me to reintroduce fruit and honey and all this other stuff
Yep.
into my diet. So I might as well listen to them. And I'm so glad that you said that. Like, that's very important detail. Much of these people, again, at least in your clientele,
Yeah.
that is an important distinction, important caveat. But still, I don't think that this is exclusive to yours. I'm seeing parallels in many other cohorts, so to speak. Um, these people are be, becoming confused. They're being addled with this information, and they don't have problems of their own. If they had never heard this before, if they'd never
Right.
come across that content, they may have like gone 3 more years without developing anything, you
Yep.
know? And then
And
whenever they do, again, that gets into a conversation about whether it was due to the,
yeah.
carnivore approach in general and all that. So,
And
yeah.
there are people I see that they're not feeling the best yet on carnivore.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna call anyone out. Like, you can do whatever you want. Like, that's fine, but don't always blame carnivore. And if you're not feeling good, if there's something else going on, then let's address that. But I do a lot of very bio individual work with clients. Like, I do a detailed food journal. Like, they're telling me everything they ate for 3 to 5 days, what their bowel movements look like, what their energy was like, what their movement was like, how much they're drinking. I mean, I'm getting like as much detailed information. And then we're looking at other things. I can look at your labs. We can talk about these things, because if you're not feeling good, let's start there. We start with the big things. And then 95% of the time, those big things actually, are going to make a huge difference. And there's times that some people need work on their nervous system. It's a huge missing piece. And that is something
Yeah.
else that I do, because if your body is constantly triggered into a defensive state, most people are very familiar with like fight or flight. They think that, and it's this cortisol release, which is, one of the states, but there are other defensive states like, you can call it flop, where it's like playing dead. So there's no response, and they're not lifeless, but you're kind of like you're playing dead. Like, if an animal
Hmm.
were grabbing you, you are just, everything is going flat. So you're not making hormones, you're not having energy. So there are other defensives that your nervous system can take. And if every email is sending you into a stress moment, and if every other
Yep.
piece of your life is doing that, then we need to address this, because the diet could be perfect, but there could be other things going on too.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another big this is another big point that I've said, which is whenever you realize how significant of a part of your health that diet plays, when you go carnivore and you see, in some cases, completely conditions that you have that are considered to be completely incurable and irreversible go away, and you realize how
Yeah.
important diet is as a result of that, it's really
Yeah.
easy to immediately assume that if you do develop a problem later on, that it must be because of the diet, because of
Right.
how significant diet has been for your life. But that doesn't
Yeah.
mean that it is, because I mean, I can tell you right now, for my in my situation, I have had problems that if I didn't know enough about my own condition and I wasn't super conscientious about it, like always like feel like understanding and listening to my body at a very heightened level compared to what I used to, compared to what other people do, I would have probably thought, I would have been like, maybe it's carnivore, maybe it's carnivore. Maybe it's that. Maybe I need to start deviating away from that. But what I realized is a lot of this is because of, I have hypermobile EDS. I have a very, very severe case of it. And I am on my journey to curing that basically completely. But it's going to take a long time given the severity of my condition. And carnivore has been the thing that has allowed me to maintain my symptoms
Yeah.
better than any other approach.
Right.
But I've noticed that I still had problems even like years later of being carnivore,
Yeah.
but I never once looked at the diet and went, that's the thing that did it. Because I remember, I think people have a habit of taking for granted what carnivore has done for them once they get better. We all have that. We
Yeah.
all do that. It's like, oh, it cured all of this stuff for me, or it's at least allowed me to maintain all these symptoms that I have for this really complex condition. And then you reach a flat line. If you're not improving beyond that level, that's your new baseline. So that's your new reference range. You forget everything that happened before that. You forget the climb up to that level. And so that's why so many people, whenever they get to such a great level, they go, you know what? I think I can get away with eating that now. It's
Yeah.
like, because you forget that that's the thing that caused you to go down that route anyway. So then your graph looks like this. You go up to the baseline and then you go back down again and up and down and
Yeah.
up and down. And it's a never ending story at that point. It's a never ending pattern. Um,
You're right,
so
though. It's so
yeah,
good because carnivore is so good for you, but it's not a miracle all the time. I mean, it is in a
yeah,
way, but there are things that, like, if I broke my arm, it's not going to fix my arm in that moment, right? Like, it's not immediately either.
yeah.
So there are a lot of things that can improve over time. There are a lot of things that can improve very quickly, but there can also be other things still happening that happen in your body, and it can take
Hmm.
time to repair. But most things can, settle down, like you said, or improve. And then that's when you can, work with a practitioner if there's some other things that you need addressed that are not improving, or if you're not feeling great.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's a good segue into what I was going to talk to you about next, which was when people are experiencing symptoms that do seem to be from the diet, which can happen. I mean, we don't pretend like whenever you're on this diet, a lot of the things that you're doing on the diet could be causing what you're dealing with. Like, for example, one of the most common things, and this has been talked about recently, as it's been cited as one of the main reasons why people are leaving carnivore, at least the select few at the top. But again, as we covered, that influences a lot of other people to want to do the same thing, even if they're not dealing with symptoms. It's weight stalling and potentially weight gain. So weight loss stalling. So you lose a lot in the beginning, and then you just sort of starts to plateau. Some people perhaps are seen to even gain a few pounds in what seems to be fat. However, we can also get into how that could also not be the case, and it could be muscle too. Because I dealt
Yeah.
with this without working out at all. I gained 10 pounds of muscle after
Nice.
a year and a half of being carnivore without working out at all.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
so I mean, that also needs to be addressed, the nuance there. But when it comes to clients that you've dealt with that have had these problems, what have you seen that have been the biggest culprits there, if you've identified any? I know that you talked about under eating. You sort of alluded to that, which sort of paradoxically perhaps could lead to that problem. Let's get into that. I want to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Well, first, I love what you said because, like, you gained 10 pounds, and if a woman gained 10 pounds, they would freak the hell out. So,
Yeah,
uh, I mean, my husband can swing 10 pounds on a weekend. Like, that's water. I mean, and it is crazy and
yep.
that's thing, a little bit different, but muscle, I want you to weigh more, but be smaller. And that's what the goal is. You're going to have more muscle. And, when you finally give your body what it needs, or maybe now your bone is actually repairing, because our bones are part protein too, are mostly
Hmm.
protein. If you
Yep.
haven't had that, like, you could be growing bone. If you were under eating protein, and like there's the Minnesota starvation experiment is one of my like favorite studies that I reference a lot of time, of how under eating,
Yeah.
affect people, and a rebound effect to it when you do start eating again. So that's something, but people's organs got smaller. Like the liver shrank by like 50% when they were on a starvation diet. So
Yeah.
if you've done that, and especially women that are yo-yoing their whole life, or they're always eating less and then eating less and doing all these things, and now you're actually giving your body what it needs, like, if your organs are getting bigger, you're going to weigh more. There's stuff that is
Hmm.
a priority for your body, and protein is a building block. Now, if they actually do have excess body fat and are truly stalled, because I think like people think, oh, I'm stalled. Like, well, that's like weeks of nothing happening. And I encourage like photos or, if you really wanted to take measurements, maybe you can do that. But really, photos share a lot of the differences when the scale could be exactly the same. But there is, I've had a lot of clients that undereat because they are just so full and they're like, I feel good. And I, ate this and this is what I had. Or they found some really crazy version of carnivore that said you needed to eat like these fat macros and they're just like prioritizing like so much fat um to be in
Yeah.
ketosis. Like there's some people out there that say like she does a live stream for free a lot, and she encourages like a 3-to-1 fat to protein ratio. And it's not necessarily carnivore, but it's a lot of fat. And I don't think that that is helping a lot of people because then
Mm,
you're also not getting that stomach stretch. Like being full of only fat is not really filling, like protein is so much more satiating. So I think
yeah.
some of these really odd extremes are what get people maybe gaining weight or are a little bit stalled or it's usually when they're within like the 10 pounds. Like I feel like they're like, okay, I'm super good, but I'm stalled. That's when everybody starts to tinker and go crazy and try a really ton of fat and, oh, I lost some weight.
Yeah.
But like now you're not under eating protein because you're eating all this fat. And like when just don't, when you go on these, like even these bodybuilders used to do like the diets, like bulk and cut and bulk and cut. We don't want to do that. Like if you can't stay in a cut your whole life, things are going to happen. And
Yep.
if you are always giving less and less and less, then your body's gonna be like, well, this is what we get now. This is our new set point. So if we could just actually raise that and get you to eat enough, and that can wildly change things. So um it's usually the like, I need to add a stick of butter a day, or I need to like some of these claims that came out of, I don't know where, like, can some people get away with it? Sure, they can, because once they're in like a really good place with their body and their health, like, yeah, they can eat as much as they want and nothing changes. But for somebody who is insulin resistant and has a ton of weight to lose and, is very sedentary and all of these other things and is maybe in their 60s and has 60 years of damage to do, I don't necessarily, it's not going to be the same approach. So
Yep.
that's the hard part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually have two things to respond with in that regard. I actually know, like my fiance, for example, she has been, I wouldn't say, she's not as strict as me with carnivore. She's technically, she would be what's considered ketovore. So
Yeah.
she has more plants in there, but the carbs are very low. So
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what works best for her. I always tell her, I'm like, I mean, would it be nice? Like, could you maybe deal with, could you have a 5% greater improvement if you went completely strict? Maybe.
Yeah.
However, would you be more likely or less likely to stick to it if
Yes.
that's also a balance that needs to be found. So she
Yeah.
does best with that. But she's lost 55 pounds in the
Wow.
last in
Amazing.
over, yeah, in about, I mean, 2 years at this point. But
Yeah.
what she found was that she didn't have a rapid weight loss like a lot of these other carnivores do. Like whenever people go on carnivore, and one of the things that I had to keep telling her was she was saying a lot of these things. She was like, I feel like I'm stalling. I feel like this isn't working. And I had to tell her, like, patience is a virtue. You're doing things right. Just if it becomes like a very, very, like, you still have like 30 more pounds that it seems like you need to lose, and it's been 6 months. Okay,
Right.
well, we can work with that. Maybe it's not the diet at all. Maybe resistance training can help, because if you increase your basal metabolic rate, that can help a lot when you
Yeah.
oxidative tissue on your body. But eventually, as she just maintained the same activity level, but she just went down and down and down. But what's happened is, I think that we think that she's probably got about, like, it seems like people can get to this like 10-pound level where they have, like, it looks like they have like 10 more pounds that they could lose. And
Yeah.
then, but for like months and months and months, they're not there. I know. I was just talking to Carrie, Man of Homestead How, and he said that he's got a little bit of fat still left to go, and he's been on carnivore for a while, but he lost
Yeah.
so much fat. He was like, I honestly don't even mind it, because clearly it's like, I'm metabolically healthy. I've got 10, yeah, maybe 10 pounds to lose, but I look at that like, hey, if there's a famine, I've got a little bit of fuel in the tank to work with. Like,
Yeah.
and it gets into a distinction between like vanity pounds versus actual fat that needs to be lost. Like
Right.
that's hindering you from your progress. And, it's not to say that, you would be you would be worse off if you did lose the 10 pounds, like your body, it's not to say that you can't lose it, but it
Right.
is to say that should you be putting so much emphasis, like I need to lose that at any cost, even if it means going super high carb, low fat or something, like whatever it may
Yeah.
cause something like that to happen. I think that that's one thing that I see a lot. It's the vanity chasing in a way.
Yeah.
And I understand the desire to like be the best version of yourself that you can be, but what if that fat is there because your body is saying, quote unquote,
Mhm.
that no, I mean, we can, you got us to a really, a point of abundance. You're getting us back to a point where we were before, but maybe we'll keep this 10 pounds on just in case, like
Yeah.
whatever's to come. Like, I don't think that that's too big of a worry. It's not the same thing as like still being 50 pounds overweight or maybe even gaining fat, which can
Yeah.
also happen depending on what presentation you are at when you embark upon carnivore. I
Yeah.
mean, like you
And
said,
like
you
you said,
mentioned insulin resistance. So, I mean, what if you're,
yeah.
yeah,
And like you said, like that 10 pounds, if you just keep doing exactly what you're doing and majority of the time and added some resistance training, that could totally transform the way you're structured. So it is, and that takes way longer. And the part people hate is when things take a long time. So yeah, it
yeah,
made it then carnivore, you may have had some really rapid fat loss. So then when it was going like this, we need a lot to lose, and then it starts going like this, like, well, now it seems slower. And like you said, it takes a lot longer, but that's when you need, and it's the opposite though. Like some clients I'm like, you have to do like, they're trying to just go so hard of, now I'm gonna train for this marathon and I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. And you're like, okay, no, 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 no. Like, let's just regroup. Like,
be careful.
what,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
What do you want your body to look like? What's your goal? Because
yeah.
I love, like, I don't know if you know Dr. Jockish, but he talks a
Oh
lot.
yeah, 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 yeah. I'm trying to get him up here too. Yeah, I'm trying to talk to him. Yeah.
I don't know him, but I've read his book and I love, I have an X3 bar and all of that. And like, he's a really great book about, cardio versus even weight training versus
Hmm.
variable resistance training. And there are some really big differences in how your body, can put on muscle and how you can actually, some people go to the gym and do all these things and they look exactly the same because it doesn't do enough. So he's got some
Hmm.
really cool, research and, like you said, the variable resistance bands and stuff like that. So there are other levers to pull in a efficient way where you're not, stressing the crap out of your body to get there. And I think that's like the balance is like, we need to find the balance of health versus, oh my God, I need to be perfect. And
Yeah.
you can still want to look really good. Like I agree. I know, and it's not just vanity. I think there is something that,
Yes.
like you can do better, right? Like you want to
Yeah.
be that better version of yourself. So that's not a bad thing, but then it's okay. I got the nutrition piece. What else do I need? I think is a
Yeah.
better question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm glad that you said that. Yeah, that last 10 pounds could very well be lost if but not in the context maybe of even diet. Like you stay you do what you do, you stay doing what you're doing, you keep doing what you're doing, and you've gotten yourself 90% there. Maybe the other 10%, maybe the other 5% is the stuff that you're not doing. A lot of people want to solve things via addition, whenever they should be solving things with subtraction, but also vice versa. A lot of times people would want to subtract things like, okay, let's just quit the carnivore, let's just quit this, quit that. When in reality, if you just add something else in that is most congruent with what we're designed to do, then you might very well get your presentation that you were striving towards and have been for a while. So
Mhm.
that's another good point. Yeah, Dr. Jaquish, he's a very fascinating individual actually because he focuses a lot on fitness. However,
Yeah.
people so much so that people forget almost or never realize they're like they'll realize like a year or two later they're like, oh, he got that physique without carbs, like carnivore. He's been eating carnivore for how many years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I find him very fascinating. I'm looking. I've never talked to him face to face, but he did. He did feature on the. He had a take on my book. It's on the back of my book.
Oh, cool.
He's read it and all that stuff. So yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah,
Looking forward to.
he's really smart. He's got a lot out there. Like I said, his book was really helpful to me for clients because I was I've done like some certifications, for physical training and things like that. And um, it's just really helped, myself as well as my clients with, the type of training. It's the minimum effective dose. And that's kind of,
Yes.
the whole thing, what it should be. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so I suppose the next question that I want to ask you, I'm going to get a little contentious here. I know that it's sort of already been contentious because we're talking about, introducing versus not introducing carbs. And carbs are really, they're always a hot topic, always in the area of
Mhm.
carnivore. Um, so I want to get your take. I'll give mine first, actually, about this because,
Yeah.
but I do want to hear yours. I hear oftentimes, and I'm sure you've heard the same thing, because we haven't said the claim here on this video, but we've said something that seems to be the exact same, like in meaning, equivalent in meaning, but I don't think it is. And it's this idea that you can do what you'd like to do. You don't have to do carnivore. You could be vegan if you'd like, and we don't really, it's fine. Like, go ahead, do what you'd like.
Yeah.
But what I hear oftentimes is not just that claim made, but another claim alongside it that's attached to the end, which is you can do what you like. Not all diets are good for, like, there's not one size fits all. And depending on what that means, it's true. We've already talked about how just because something is carnivore doesn't mean that it's going to be great for you. Some people do better on a lion diet. Some people do better with some dairy in their diet. Okay, and
Yep.
that's an example of how one size does not fit all. Some people primarily eat burger patties and ground beef. Other people eat solely steak, like New York strips and ribeyes. Okay, that's something that I completely agree with.
Hmm.
The one thing that I don't like the sort of overly anodyne approach, which is, since if one size doesn't fit all, like one size doesn't fit all, that again, depending on the context, that makes sense. However, if what you mean by that is one person may do better on carnivore, but another person may totally do better on a vegan diet,
Hmm.
I feel like there's some distinction there that needs to be made. So I wanted to get your thoughts actually on the conciliatory approach to this change, which is, oh, well, some people might do better with hundreds of grams of carbohydrates in their diet, and therefore we shouldn't really be saying anything against it. And then the other claim, which is what we make, or at least what I make. Again, I haven't heard your thoughts about this yet, which is, yeah, I mean, maybe you might do better with like some steaks instead of a bunch of ground beef. Maybe you do better with some dairy, and maybe you do better with salting more. Some people do better with salting less or not salting at all. Stuff like that. What is your
Yeah.
take on that response that's been said in response to the reintroduction of, in some cases, like I said, hundreds of grams of carbohydrates into people's diets every day?
Yeah. So yeah, you're so right because it is the body still works the same way for all of us. Like 99.5%. I don't even know.
Yes.
We're super
Yes.
close. Like my genes express maybe like my symptoms might be a tiny bit different than your symptoms, but like the way things work in our body is the same. Like, and I think like this whole, there's been the blood type diet or, you need this or like it's bio and there is it is bio individual for the environment your body's in right now. And that's
Yes.
the difference, I think, because if my environment, I did lion diet for like, I don't know, a
Hmm.
year because I thought I had severe food issues. Like eggs were giving me histamine at one point, and I was like getting a lot
Me
of
too.
red on my face. Yeah. So I was like
Mm.
questioning, like, oh my God, what do I need? And I did do that for a while. And then it was almost a little it was too restrictive and it's very, very difficult to do. And I'm not going to say I don't recommend it, but if somebody needs that because of what they're going through in their body, then that's great. And if dairy is something that keeps you on carnivore because you're able to eat dairy and you're still feeling great, then, that's you. But to say that it's then a stretch that maybe some people need carbs, the body still works the same way. Like
Hmm.
how do you want to get your car? The fuel in your body doesn't change. You can use glucose, you can use fat, ketones. So what do those things break down to? Like, because the carbs break down to glucose and so does the meat. And
Right.
I think I think that you could, for me, I'd rather just eat the meat and not have a massive, amount of carbohydrates and massive, crashes and spikes and all of this. But somebody who is super duper fit and like, running and has a ton of muscle and all these things, like they can probably get away with it. And that's up to them. But do they need to? I I would question,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
they want to, maybe they feel better. Like you said, if they feel better and they're doing that, fine. But I wouldn't say that different people have different needs. I think it's where they are in the journey, where they are in the process. Because a lot of times if people are trying to do things on like very athletic levels, like professional levels too, that's a whole other it's a whole other thing. I don't work with many of those. I had like one person who did some Ironman stuff, and
Right.
honestly it's not my favorite because there's so much more involved. Like they probably, they have a super duper charged body, that they have a lot of physical needs and more fuel, that it's going to be very different. There are people out there that do, so that's not my thing. But
Right.
that it really depends on where you are in the process, that what your body needs, but it's going to work the same. And then I would say, well, then let's look at the other pieces. Like, what is your sleep? Are you sleeping? Do you fall asleep? Do you
Hmm.
skip sleep? Are you, are you able to digest your food? Like if you've been in a carnivore and have loose stools for it's a year now and you're still not having that, then we need to do something there. We got to figure that out. We got to figure out, your movement. We need to figure out, what is your blood sugar doing? Are you drinking enough water? Like you said, salt, electrolytes, like all of that stuff is important, because if you just ate meat and you didn't drink any water, well, you're going to be you're going to be feeling pretty bad too. So let's just find the all of the pieces. And even the circadian rhythm is huge, and most people live in a very fake world. That, I mean, I'm outside right now because I can be, and that can be a factor as well. We're not getting outside, we're not getting sun. And I mean, I moved to a place with all the vitamin D I could get because I know it's
Yeah.
super important. And I didn't want to live in Buffalo, New York, where it was winter
Oh,
for
yeah.
6 months of the year.
Yeah. Yep.
So that was a issue for me. And I obviously feel much better and I like having a tan. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of other pieces that are huge that could be missing, is what
Yeah.
the point is.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, we're pretty much on the same page with that. I think that this gets into a conversation about the appropriate amount of quote unquote chaos and order. Like you don't want to have too much chaos, which is that's represented as like, oh, well, anyone can eat whatever they want,
Yeah.
because everyone's different. Like, oh, one person can have a bunch of Twinkies and ding dongs every day,
Right.
and then another person might do better on carnivores. Like, hold on a minute. When we
Yeah.
talk about some variation, that's not how much we're talking about. We're talking
Right.
about within the confines of what's appropriate for our genome across the board. As you were saying, we're basically
Yeah.
our bodies. We're one of the same species. That's one of the most important points to instill, which is as much as we have different genotypes, because every single member of a species is going to be genetically different in that respect.
Yeah.
Just because they're genetically different doesn't mean they have different diets. It might just mean that one of them could be growing, could be developing in a different part of the environment, and therefore have very slight, minimal variations in their same diet. Like it's still the
Yeah.
same diet, just minimal variation within that diet. That's where
Right.
the appropriate amount of chaos is, right? Like the amount of variation. And I think
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to get. It's a balancing act. It is a balancing act. Like where is too much chaos? Where is too much order?
Yeah.
Like that matters too, because too much order, the other side of the spectrum is, you know,
Yeah.
telling every single person that they must be on a lion diet.
Right.
It's like, well, hold on. Oh, every single person must eat one meal a day.
Right.
Every single person. It's like, well, hold on
Yeah.
a minute, because people are doing a lot of different things, and we also live in we live in a modern world. Like there are a lot of different externalities that are deviations away from what we evolved to withstand, that may very well need to be counteracted by another deviate. Two negatives can make a positive, you know?
Yeah.
I think that it depends on the circumstance. Sometimes two negatives can make an even bigger negative, but I think that it's all an experiment. It's all an experiment right now. And I actually have a video titled as Modern Life is an Experiment, precisely about this topic, because
For sure.
people, just because our modern life is different, it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't mean at all that we should be completely just throw our hands up in the air and say, okay, well, we should be eating a bunch of Twinkies and ding dongs every day because our bodies will adapt over time. It's like, well, we should
Right.
still try and mitigate that a bit, but
Yeah.
you can have some variation within that confine. And I think that that's actually the best thing that we could do for clients.
Yeah. And I love
So
your analogy of chaos versus order, because it's so true. Like if you tell somebody, I know that there's people out there, and Judy Cho has talked a lot about this in the past, and I love her. I've read her book. Like I love all of she does. She's one of the reasons I became an NTP in the first place. So she talks about abstainers and moderators. And as a person, you probably know what you are. There are people that they are like, if I touch that, it is all bets are off. Like if I
Game
have
over.
that thing, yeah, if I have that cheese or that, whatever, like I'm eating the whole brick or whatever. So they can't moderate that. And then there's people, you said, if you can't have anything else, you cannot have dairy or you cannot do this, they're going to be like, well, then I'm not going to do that diet at all. Like they need that little bit
Right.
of, and that's why, like, once you get your body and you understand the foods, that are good and the bad, and, the majority of your diet is a carnivore diet, whether you're ketovore or whatever you want to, say, then you know what works for you. Because coming from an eating disorder as well, I mean, I've had clients that, even with anorexia, I've worked with, and that's a totally different subset of what we're doing too, because I need to focus on getting them, they have to eat and they're eating and they're actually like, oh my God, my cycles come back on, all of these things are different. And we're trying not to limit, but I'm not going to say like just eat so much food that we lead to this binging and purging like they used to do. So it's a balance of, these are the foods that are the most ideal and are going to nourish your body. And these are what we should eat the majority of the time. But the person, you have to know yourself and what you're going to do, if that is, if dairy sets you off, or if sugar, I mean, if you have fruit, some people could now be like, well, now I'm going to have ice cream because I had fruit. Like that sweet
Yeah.
is like, all right, I'm
Yep.
going for all of it.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, we talked about a lot of things here. I guess the final thing that I want to ask you is what would you say, after everything that we've talked about here today, what would you say to people that may have been subjected to have now been addled by the conflicting claims coming from people in the carnivore space that are thinking, oh well, should I introduce carbohydrates back in? Oh, do I need to do that? Are carbs required, or have we been lied to about carbohydrates? What do you have to say to people that are thinking about these things now that there's been a lot of confusion and bemusement now, that has been sowed by these claims that have been made in the space? What do you have to say to those people?
Well, I would say first, what do you need? How do you feel? How did you feel before you were carnivore? What was wrong before? What got better? What
Mm-hmm.
what got worse? Is there anything that got worse? Maybe there was. And then maybe you could work with a practitioner to make sure that you are going to optimize the other areas of your life. However, I would want to know, how much are you eating? Are you eating enough protein? How do you know? Are you eating most carnivores need at least 2 to 3 meals a day. OMAD, one meal a day, every day is not a way of life. That is going to just lead to a lot of issues. Because if you could eat that in one meal, you could probably eat it in two. Like what I eat in one meal, like if I am so full, like I could eat that in 2 meals. And you may not know how much your body needs. Like, don't be afraid to eat what you're hungry for. Especially women are like, oh, I'm going to have this little tiny piece of protein. And it's like the smallest little splash of protein on top of a big old green salad. That's what you were taught. Like, and it's the
Yeah.
opposite. Like, no, this is your protein. And if you're having some salad, it's like this. Like, I had a video up in my Spanish teacher saw a video of me eating a pile of meat. And she was like, how much meat is that on your plate? And she was just shocked. And I'm like, well, I'm looking and doing the math, and I'm like, and here it was like a pound and a half of beef, 4 eggs, sardine. Like there was so much food on there, and she was
Wow.
like
Yeah.
just blown away. And I mean, that's something they haven't heard of carnivore down here for sure. That they're like
Yep.
think crazy, but that's a lot of protein for a normal adult to eat in one day. So when one person's eating that in a sitting, all of a sudden they would be questioning themselves. They don't understand like that maybe I do need more. Maybe I, could eat more. But I would say listen to your body. If you're hungry, eat more meat. If you're not feeling good, what else could you need? And yeah, work with a practitioner if something's not going well, if you're feeling like you have low energy and, all these other things, or maybe there's some thyroid stuff going on. But I would question other pieces and not necessarily jump to carbs, because carbs are probably what got you here in the first place.
Yes, I'm glad that that was the final part of what you said. There was a nice summation, a nice build up to that point. Yes, good.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, I know that you're present primarily on Instagram, if I've got that right. But where else can people find you, and what type of content do you post, just for people, just and what kind of services do you provide? I know you also mentioned an ebook that you have as well.
Mhm.
So mention all that. I want to link all that in the description below so that people
Oh,
can follow you and help you out and all that stuff, and also so that you can help them out
yeah.
if they're
No,
having problems. So yeah,
thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm most social media active on Instagram, at In the Buff Wellness. InTheBuffWellness.com is my website where I have, different programs. I have like an online on-demand course that is really just, my ebook with all things carnivore. It's mostly focused to fat loss because that's what most people want to see. But it is a very general overview of all the pieces. It's not just what to eat. It's, meal timing. It's anything about like fasting. It's about sleep. It's about stress. It's about your nervous system. It's about your gut health. So it's more of an overview on a lot of big things. But I do work one-on-one for clients that need the support. That's what I do most often is, yeah, just help you figure it out. We do a root cause analysis to see everything going on in the body.
good, awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I'll link all of that in the description below. Go ahead and follow Sarah here. We need more coaches that know what they're talking about and are
Okay.
consistent with the messaging and aren't sowing seeds of confusion. And we yeah no go ahead and do that. And Sarah, we should schedule another call soon, because I'm sure that I know for a fact that I missed some things that I wanted to talk to you about, but
Oh,
we
yeah.
only have so much time in 1 hour. So yeah, no, we'll talk soon, and we'll maybe get another video up and running later down the line. So it was good talking to you.
Yeah, you too. I appreciate it. It was nice. It was fun. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I love what you do. Like I said, taking people apart and breaking down what's incorrect and just actually with data of how they're, not exactly doing a service online.
Yes, yes, no, more to come for sure. Yes, but
Yeah.
yep, we'll
Aw-
talk soon. Good talking to you.
Awesome. Yeah, you too. It was nice to meet you officially.
Yep.
Nice. Thank you. Bye.